Evan, Will and I spoke last night, and Evan and I also spoke last night. I don't know how, but he's going to be at practice today, and he'll be with us full-time for the next 2 weeks until football determines bowl practices. Then obviously once bowl practices begin, he'll go back over there. He's traveling. We came in, we talked about it last night, and he came in to see me this morning. He says, Coach, I'm in. So he'll be at practice today, and he's been added to the manifest, and away we go.
Frank, obviously a 2-game road trip, you know, pretty far away from home, 2 really strong teams. Just with Wyoming first, how difficult is it not only to go on the road and play, but that altitude and trying to get used to the atmosphere out there?
Yeah, we you know, when I was at K-State, we go to Colorado and play every year, and the altitude, I guess Wyoming's 7,000 feet or something. Colorado is like 5,000 something. We never spoke about it. We're not going to talk about it now. There's some all kinds of scientific stuff that we got people that have advised us how to travel, when to get there, how much time, all those things, and we're going to kind of follow their lead on that. And at the end of the day, you know, we got to, you know, it's we got to manage it. We can't go in there thinking negative thoughts. We got to go in there trying to figure out a way to win the game. By the way, it's 2 degrees there today. 2. You know, but it's a part of the country I've never spent any time in, so I'm kind of excited to see that atmosphere. And also, it's a university. It's one of those states where it's the one university in the state, and their fans love their school, and it'll be pretty neat to go into that arena and play. And then, yeah, Beeline and I have become friends. We've known each other for a long time, and ever since Russia, we remain in contact. And watching his team on film, watching him in person a couple weeks ago, wow! I mean, you know, I'll start being a miserable human being sometime Wednesday night when I'm back in our room in Laramie and I'm watching film on Michigan. But I kind of peeked at their Purdue game, and what they did to Purdue, which Purdue's really good, is ridiculous. They're playing at a high level right now.
Did Justin's procedure go as planned on Friday, and will he travel with you guys? Not to play, obviously, but just be with you guys.
Yeah, no. The procedure went great. He's fine, great spirits. He's staying behind, because the most important part of rehabbing is immediately post-surgery. It makes no sense for him to travel. And, you know, there's things that he can do from a rehab standpoint with Mark on the road. But he's got everything where we can be a lot more aggressive with it, you know. So he won't travel with us this week.
Speaking of Michigan, obviously the freshman that I can't pronounce his name, Ignace.
Yeah, he's good.
Rozikis. Obviously you've had Dwayne and now AJ. This kid's from Ontario. Mm-hmm. When did Canada become a spot to recruit talent? I know Steve Nash went there, but there's been certainly been seems like a rise lately. And you know, when did you first go in there, and what's the basketball like up there?
It's real good. There's a guy named Roe Russell, and to my knowledge, he's the first one that really worked to introduce Toronto basketball into the United States at the grassroots level. This was I was still in high school, so mid to late 90s, right in there. And when I got the job at Northeastern, you know, I tried to recruit a couple Toronto kids. We recruited Montreal when I was at Northeastern. Another assistant did. So I went into Montreal also. It just continues to grow. You know, they're unbelievable cities, just like, you know, New York City, Chicago. They've got a whole lot of people, and they love their sports. I mean, I don't know if you, like, let's say Toronto, let's use them because that's where my guy's from, and Iggy's from that area too. But when you watch the Raptors play, the fanatism, is that a word? Did I say it the right way? I don't know what I said. But the environment that exists in that building, watching those guys play, it's ridiculous, like the passion that people have for basketball right now. And it's you know, Blue Jays, when they win, it's ridiculous. It's an area that loves sports, and basketball has just grown so much, and there's so many people there. And I don't want to misspeak here because I'm not, you know, I probably am going to misspeak, but, you know, Toronto's kind of become a melting pot also. You got a lot of folks from different parts of the world that have moved there because it's such a great city. So you got people that have come in from basketball backgrounds to live there. Like, you know, A.J. Lawson, his dad's a South Carolinian, you know, loves basketball. That's where it all comes from. And so, you know, it's definitely boomed. You know, definitely boomed.
Did it have player at all, or is it?
No, it's just no different than going into New York City, Chicago. It's the same deal. They're competitive. They know the game. They play. They got pride. Like, you know, it's they got. When I mean they got pride, I'm not trying to say other people don't have pride. They've got pride for what that game means to them. Some people play basketball because it's what you do in the winter, but they don't fight for the game. Those kids in Toronto, they got pride in the game. They fight for the game, and you know, and it's that's the same way kids in Chicago and New York City. You know, that's how they are. You know, the winter basketball is not what they do in the winter. Basketball is what they fight for every day, and that's the way they are up there right now.
You mentioned the natural connection with Michigan, but, you know, Wyoming, probably a lesser natural fit for you guys. I guess what led to the connection there, and, of course, just in general, how more difficult is it to schedule a lot of these games when they'll make you come out there and have to play out there for the two return or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking to schedule good opponents. You know, Wyoming had won 20 games like 4 years in a row or something like that. And Larry Shiat was the head coach, and one of his assistants, his son Jeremy, who was on my team at 5-star, and I've known him since he was 14, 15 years old. And then they hired Alan Edwards, who played for me in high school. And then when Coach Shiat decided to step down, Alan got named the head coach. And Alan's like a son to me. And I kind of figured I was getting that phone call. So I got the phone call. I know they've built a real good program there. They've, you know, whether it's Larry Nance's son, I can't remember the other guy they had 2 years ago that was real good. It escapes me right now, who's a borderline NBA guy. He might be on a roster. His name escapes me right now. But they've won 20 games, I want to say 4 consecutive years. So they've built a real good program. And they play in the Mountain West, which folks on this side of the country might not know, but me spending time over there, that's one of the better leagues in the country as far as basketball goes. And so we're getting a quality opponent. But when Alan called, you know, he hadn't coached a game yet, and he said, man, it mean everything to me if I can get an SEC opponent in our building. I said, why are you calling me? I said, why don't you call Patino or Tubby? You won national championships for them. Why are you calling me? He says, because they won't play me. And I said, and you call me because you know I can't say no. That is verbatim the way the conversation went. So I said, get your guy to get with my guy, see if we can figure out dates that work. And if they can, we'll make it work. And that's how the game happened. So, you know, it's and like I said the other day, As far as playing on the road, you got to, I like playing road games where, number one, our team is challenged, number two, we recruit, or we're taking somebody home. Those are the three non-conference road game things for me. We're not going to recruit Wyoming that we know of. I never have. Am I saying I never will? That's not what I'm saying, but we never have in my time as a head coach. None of our guys from that area, so we're not taking anyone home, but we're getting a quality opponent. And it's a hard place to win. Look at their home record over the years. It's a hard place to win at. So our team's going to get challenged. When a month from now, we got 9 of them coming now. 9 of them road games that you don't. If you go into any of them with a sense of doubt, you got no chance. So it creates that mindset we got to have to go on the road.
What stands out about Beilein's defensive scheme, and I guess how does it compare to what you guys run?
Yeah, well, I've always felt that he's so good offensively that he's never gotten credit for his defense. He used to play a lot more zone. They've become more man-to-man oriented. I know this. I've been with him in a dorm room and wearing USA trying to go win games. He's competitive as competitive can be. I mean, he just kind of holds it together a lot better than I do. But from a competitive standpoint, ooh. And, and he's a hard driver. Like, he is a hard driver. And so his teams have – you don't win 800 games, whatever he's won, because your teams don't defend. And he's won everywhere. I don't care where he goes. His teams win and win big. But I think they're so good on offense that no one's ever given them credit defensively. I also think that he's got a team that's got a makeup that makes him even better defensively because of size, length, athleticism. Like their point guard. I'm drawing a blank right now. I'm really bad with stuff until we get ready to go play somebody. But their point guard, that kid's got a lot of Dwayne Notice in him. Like, kid that no one knows about. But guess what? Guess who the starting point guard in the national championship game for Michigan last year was? Him. Because he's relentless. He guards. He's a winner. He took a transfer that we played against in Charles Matthews, and he's been look at all those guys, a young man that plays for the Nets that no one thought much of and just got himself an ugly injury a month ago or so. I can't remember his name. Yeah, unbelievable pro. Gerald Robinson, just keep going. All those guys. And Tim Hardaway Jr., he does an unbelievable job with them big guards and preparing them to become pros. He's done the same with Charles Matthews. So I think that there's a makeup of players that have taken his competitiveness, and they're real good defensively to start with as players, and they're playing a lot of man-to-man, and they're good. They're strong. Here's the thing, you watch film, you sit there and you can watch hours of film. There's certain things you don't get from a team until you see them in person. When I sat and watched them play in person in Connecticut, I hadn't started studying them yet, but I'm watching the game there in Connecticut, and I'm saying, that guy played in the national championship game. So did that guy. So did that guy. So did that guy. So I asked Chuck, I said, Chuck, he says, Frank, they lost this guy, whatever. Mo Wagner, he said another name. But the rest of them were on that team. They play like a team that's got unbelievable poise, that plays with a purpose. And kind of what you saw from Wofford a week ago. That's how they play.
Frank, with the semester close to wrap, does that have any impact on Jermaine becoming eligible or not, or is that a completely separate issue?
No, no.
Okay.
No. His whole deal is off campus, and we're in that holding pattern. The only thing that'll help us with the semester coming to an end is the time restriction goes away, and obviously class attendance and all that goes away. Tutor time goes away. So now guys like Alonzo, TJ, Evan now, we can get a lot more reps out of them to get them better prepared as we go through Christmas break.
If Jermaine is playing, what impact? I mean, it's hard to talk in hypotheticals, obviously, but where does he fit in, I guess, with this team?
Can really score. In practice, I'm making him learn how to play without the ball in his hands because he's comfortable. You put the ball in his hands and give him space or ball screen or something, and he's really good in that stuff. But we're trying to force him to learn how to play without the ball in his hands. So he spends a lot of time in practice, just like what we do with Hassani. You're watching Hassani do it now. Just kind of run and attack in the open court, learn how to come off screens. He's never come off a screen before. You know, he's used to give me the ball, give me space, or give me a ball screen, and let me do my thing. And he's good there, but we got to help him grow his game. And he's a competitive kid. He doesn't like to lose. Doesn't like to lose in practice. He's a competitive kid. He's got to get better defensively. Doesn't understand how to guard yet. You know, that's something that if he were playing, he probably wouldn't like me a whole lot when we're doing defensive drills. But offensively, he's pretty good.
You mentioned, I guess, after the Coastal Carolina game, this team's a little soft right now. Is that something, as coaches, you can fix, or does that have to come from the leadership on the team in practice?
A little bit of both. You know, I use this analogy with our team. You know, sometimes you take a guy in the gym, you know, and you say, hey, come on, I want to teach you how to box. And they go in the gym and they hit the bag, they hit the speed bag, they do all kinds of stuff, and they're real good at it. Then they go in the ring and they get punched in the face and they don't like it. So they don't box anymore. Does that make sense what I'm saying? You know, you can't force guys that don't like physicality to become physical. It's just not going to. Like Alonzo don't care. You hit him with a sledgehammer, he don't care. Doesn't faze him. Chris, it doesn't faze him. Some of these other guys that maybe that doesn't come natural to, you got to constantly rep it. You got to kind of force it on them so they understand that it really doesn't hurt. So they don't avoid it. But I don't think it's someone that's not comfortable with that, I don't think it's something they go out of their way to go deal with it. But that's where also, from a pride standpoint, from a individual standpoint, whether they like it or not, for the best of the team, they have to learn how to, you know, we've played, what, 7 games now? We're 4-3? So we got another 23, 24, somewhere in there, guaranteed games. They got to learn for those number of games that, you know what, 23, 24 more times, I need to throw my body around a little more aggressively than I have in the past. And that's where our job is, to be persistent with it, and their job is to buy into that.
Talk about Beeline with the big guards. You added another big guard a couple weeks ago, which, if you project forward, your roster next year has a ton of length, it seems like, on the perimeter. What is Trey Anderson going to give you from that perspective, and then also his reputation as a shooter? You know, how much does that impact your team?
Yeah, you know, once we had our point guard in place and Trey Hannibal, and we had our big guy in place and Wildens Levesque, which I thought going into next year, athleticism and size on the front line, and another point guard were the 2 most important things for me going into next year's class. When those were in place, we were obviously recruiting a bunch of wings, and then as we started to get aggressive with which ones to pursue, and I got a better feel for the guys that are here now, because we signed all these guys, and you've heard me say this before, it all sounds good, but you don't really know what they're really, really good at until you got them around every day. So now we're around them all summer. We're around them in September, October. I started saying we need size that can really shoot the basketball. You know, Keyshawn, I think you've seen it in person. There's some unbelievable ability there. But, you know, jumping up and shooting threes is not his thing. You know, Justin, he's going to make threes for us, but he continues to grow as a player. And once he becomes a junior, we need that freshman right behind him coming next. You know, TJ's going to make threes for us. You know, AJ can make threes for us. So the one thing we didn't have was a guy that was a shooter at that spot. And and for whatever reason, there's always this label that when you're a shooter, you're not a very tough kid. I don't know why people correlate one with the other. Maybe because you don't drive it and dunk and all that, stuff that makes no sense sometimes. But he's got toughness. He's got toughness, and he's a competitor, and he's got length. He's taller than Justin and Keyshawn and all those guys, and he can really, really shoot the basketball. And he shoots it on the move, which is the other thing I really liked. And so I'm excited. I'm excited for the roster that we're kind of putting together. The 3 guys we signed, they fit who we are. Now once they get here, everything has to work out. But we're excited about that.
Seems like AJ's pretty comfortable in the ball screen offense and driving the lane. Have you had to change anything about your offensive philosophy with so many freshmen playing considerable minutes in the starting lineup?
Yeah, that's what happens when you got, like, going into Sindarius' senior year. I understood what he and Dwayne and PJ and all those guys were good and not good at. We had an idea about, like, Chris was coming on as a player. I didn't realize he was going to be as good as he was in March. But I think part of the reason he was that good in March was because he was willing to work at it and go at it, and we put him in those moments throughout the course of the season. And the more we coached him as a starting player, the more we were able to utilize him to his strengths. Same thing with all these guys. We continue to mess around with some of the things that we're doing. Now with TJ brings another dynamic to our team too. If you give TJ space, he's got a great mind to make the right decision, whether it's the pass or the shot. I got to figure out a way to do things when I've got him and AJ in the game together. But I think you saw some of that. What we scored last game, 80. That's another game in the 80s. You guys have written plenty of stories where our offense is stagnant. That's another game in the 80s. This team, we've got some power. I don't want to say offensive firepower, offensive capabilities to score points, and I think as I continue to understand all those young guys, what they're really good at, and they continue to understand the structure that we're trying to put in place for them, I think we have an opportunity to score some points.
When AJ was signed, you said it was like PJ all over again. Now that you've had him for 7 games, he's kind of been in that role. Are you coaching them similar at that stage, and where do they compare at this stage of their careers?
Yeah, they're both very quiet kids. AJ's what's the word I'm looking for? A faster player. PJ was never a blur. PJ played with feel and size. AJ's more KJ, CJ. My God, PJ. Like, as I got to know him as a player, I needed to get him where he can get between the elbows. And when he got in that space there, he was pretty darn good. I didn't understand that watching him in high school basketball. I learned that from him once he got here. AJ is becoming a pretty good defender on the ball. He's not there yet. He doesn't understand how good he can be at that yet. That's something that PJ, I don't want to say he fought, but he wasn't comfortable doing his freshman year. And as the year wore on, PJ learned that Frank's going to take me out of the game if I don't not be good at this, but if I don't commit to get better at this. And that's what made coaching him so great. He's a McDonald All-American that didn't fight coaching. Does that make sense? Like, he understood, like, for our team to be good, I need to learn to do this better. He didn't fight it. And when you took him out of the game, he didn't roll his eyes. There was no negative body language. He understood. And that's why he came back for his sophomore year, was because of the fact that he knew he needed to grow there. And then he learned how to do it. But AJ's, I don't know, I don't want to say more explosive. That's not because PJ was pretty explosive, but PJ wasn't as fast. So AJ likes you saw it the other night. If he gets in the open court, he's a blur. I mean, he's coming downhill with that ball, 100 miles per hour, and he's trying to get the rim. PJ was more like, let me get to the elbow, and if I got a smaller player on me, from there I can pass it and shoot it. AJ's trying to come at you and attack the rim. They're similar personalities, but slightly different physically.